Hey, Legal Rebels, this is Tom Martin. I'm the founder of LawDroid, and this is my podcast, LawDroid Manifesto, where I interview legal innovators about how they do what they do. In this episode, I interview Jack Brandt, U.S. Coast Guard Lieutenant and founder of Military Benefits Assistant, whose dedication to serving those who serve has led him to build AI-powered tools that help military members navigate the complex world of benefits and entitlements. Welcome to the LawDroid Manifesto podcast. I'm your host, Tom Martin. I'm really thrilled today to have on someone who I had the pleasure and honor of teaching at Suffolk University Law School. It's Jack Brandt, and he is an officer in the United States Coast Guard, a lieutenant. And he also is the founder of Military Benefits Assistant, which is super cool, and definitely want to get into asking him some questions about that. But with that, Jack, where are you and what are you up to now?
Tom, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on my professor's podcast. I'm a very big fan of LawDroid Manifesto, so it's great to be here. I'm a 3L at Suffolk Law, and I'm also still in the Coast Guard. So the Coast Guard has a funded graduate school programs, and one of them is for lawyers to be in the Coast Guard. So a couple years ago, the Coast Guard accepted me into this program, and I decided to go to Suffolk Law, and I think it's a really great decision that I made. I've had the pleasure of being able to be a student of yours and many other people in the legal tech field, and has opened this new world of legal technology, something I never thought I would be doing. So, founded Military Benefits Assistant, and actually working on some new updates right now amidst studying for finals and final papers and projects and so forth.
Yeah, what about that? You have... How many do you have coming up?
So I actually had my one final. It was last Saturday, advanced survey, and then I've turned in and completed 2 projects and presentations so far. Have a legal tech project due tomorrow, one I'm really excited about, a little tangential to Military Benefits Assistant, and then 2 more papers coming due in the next 2 weeks.
God bless you. Good luck to you. Wish you the best on those.
It'll be just fine. Life rolls on.
In June, you're going to be graduating, right?
That's correct. Yes, I'll graduate after the next semester, and I'm actually taking a little bit of a different approach than most people. Through a friend, I found out about this program called the New York Pro Bono Scholars Program. And the New York Pro Bono Scholars Program enables people who are willing to spend their final semester working pro bono for a legal services organization. That you're able, as long as you've completed all of the credits that you need to by the end of your fall semester, you're able to take the bar a little bit early in February. So I'm actually on Sunday going to be starting up my official bar prep, take the New York bar in February, and then through the spring I'll be doing Suffolk Law has a semester in practice program that they've accepted me to be able to do, and I'm going to be working for Veterans Legal Services here in Boston. I volunteered with them once a week this semester, and really looking forward to that opportunity, taking a bit of an atypical path to the end of law school.
Sounds fantastic. I mean, you're tagging on the practical experience, and I think it's going to really serve you well. It's great that there's a program like that.
That's the goal, is to get that practical experience. I'm super thankful that I was made aware of this program, and very grateful to the Suffolk Law Administration for enabling it to happen.
So Suffolk is in Boston. You're in Boston. Have you always lived in Boston?
I have not. And that confuses a lot of people, which I take as a great compliment, because I'm a Red Sox fan, I'm a Patriots fan, Celtics fan, Bruins fan, you name it. And I followed my mother's teams. She grew up all over. Her father was in the Air Force, but they ended up settling in Rhode Island, and she has always been a fan of those teams. But I grew up in South Jersey. My dad's from Connecticut, and we actually lived in Connecticut until I was about 4. And then we moved to a town called Marlton, New Jersey. Me and my brother, who was 3 years younger than me, and my parents, and I was raised there. And I lived in New Jersey until I went to the Coast Guard Academy for college, which is located in Connecticut. A lot of people don't know that there's a Coast Guard Academy. I drove past it on I-95 quite a few times as a kid and didn't really know that there was a Coast Guard Academy. But it's Army, Navy, Air Force, just a little bit smaller. Went there, and then my first set of orders was stationed on a ship in Boston after I graduated in 2019. So I lived in Boston for 2 years. And then it was the natural place to come back for school.
Makes sense. What part of Jersey?
Southern New Jersey. Marlton's next to Cherry Hill. It's between. It's a little outside of Philadelphia, maybe hour and a half or so from the shore. 30
Yeah,
minutes
yeah.
from Philly.
Well, as everyone knows, I like to take people back to their origin
Yep.
story, and like to do the same with you. Like, what was your town like?
The town was a great place to grow up. Marlton's a really, really neat area. So my family, when they moved from Connecticut, they wanted to find a place that was familiar. They're both New England people at heart. So we lived in this neighborhood that was very wooded, so a lot of trees around, a couple of lakes. I have very fond memories of being able to like go for a walk and or go for a bike ride with my brother and with my mom, and we just kind of go through the forest and go to the playground again. This is as a young kid, tennis courts, basketball. We were just always on the move. We were always moving around, whether we were riding bikes, playing wiffle ball in the backyard. There was always movement. Sports was central in my brother and I's upbringing, as was our Catholic faith. There are two Catholic churches in our town. We went to St. Joan of Arc. I went there for school between kindergarten and eighth grade. Then I went to Bishop Eustace Prep, uh, Catholic school, a couple towns over, not in Marlton, closer to Philadelphia. And had an amazing experience there. Met amazing people, great teachers. I couldn't have asked for a better upbringing in Marlton with my family.
It sounds like idyllic. You may have heard of this on other episodes, but I grew up in the city in LA, so it's quite different than living around nature. But that sounds really beautiful. Was it you and your brother? Was there did you have a big family, or was it two of you and your parents, or?
Yeah, two of us. It was just the two of us, so small immediate family, but
Yeah, yeah.
both sides, my dad's and my mom's family, were very close with. So it never felt like a small family, even though there were just four of us in the house. And I think my brother and I ran around enough to make my parents feel like they had more than two children. But very close. My mom's one of six. My dad's one of three. So all the cousins get together, and I'm the oldest on my dad's side and second oldest on my mom's side of all the cousins. So it's been fun being able to get to see all my little cousins grow up.
And you mentioned your dad was in the Air Force.
My grandfather, my mom's father, was in the Air Force.
What kind of work did your dad do?
My dad worked in baseball, which was the coolest thing for a kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
he worked for a bunch of minor league baseball teams. He worked for the New Haven Ravens. That's when I was first born. Minor league team in New Haven. They were an affiliate to the Rockies and the Yankees. And then he was shifted over to independent baseball with the Bridgeport Bluefish and the Atlantic League, and then remained in the Atlantic League for a while. He was the first general manager of the Camden River Sharks, which is what took our family to South Jersey. And then he worked for a couple of years for the Newark Bears in the same league. He's a baseball lifer, was a phenomenal baseball player, and raised my brother and I. And my mom's a huge baseball fan, so that's been a central focal point in our life. I mean, birthday parties on the field, always, and going to games. I remember every first day of school, it was such a treat to be able to get to go to Dad's game, which was really neat to get to see his team play, meet the players, going to work with Dad. After his time in baseball, Dad transitioned his career, and now he's currently working. They recently moved to North Carolina. He's working for Wawa Food Markets, which, for anyone listening, if you've ever been to a Wawa, you understand that there's some sort of weird cult going on there.
Yes,
I
sir.
remember moving away from South Jersey. I'm like, why do I miss Wawa? What's going on? Like, what is it? What is it with those hoagies that draw people in? But anyway, he works for them, and they're doing well down in North Carolina. Looking forward to going to see them for Christmas this year.
That's so funny. Yeah, I went to university in New Haven, and Wawa's was like big deal, like hanging out, late night runs. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely,
So tell your father I said thank you very much. Uh,
I will do that.
what kind of what did your mom do?
So my mom has a really, really interesting life. She raised my brother and I, and she chose to be a stay-at-home mom after we moved to New Jersey. And she was there every step of the way. Very few people can say that both of their parents were their baseball coach. I remember watching my brother's game, and my mom was coaching third, and my dad was coaching first. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And I'm like I don't know, 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid watching my brother's game at this point. My mom would be in there throwing batting practice. She was volunteering with the PTA, was taking pictures at the school, volunteering at the church. She is just like the definition of service. I draw so much inspiration from watching how she lived her life, and continues to live her life of service to other people, to her community, to her faith, to her church, to her family, to everyone around her. Before having kids, She she worked a number of different jobs. She actually lived out in Los Angeles and tried her hand at acting. Was in a found herself as an extra in a couple of shows and movies. She bartended. She bartended at TGI Fridays, and not necessarily in the traditional sense. Sure, she was tending the bar, but then she also traveled around the world to different countries: Mexico, Malaysia, New Zealand, and helped train people at new Fridays that were opening. So a really, really cool and interesting life before children that she lived. And she has just been like a steadfast inspiration in my life. And I feel very lucky to have been raised by both of my parents.
That's amazing. It sounds like, I mean, you have a very close family that both of your parents sound to me from having gotten to know you and the work that you've done and your service in the in the Coast Guard to be fundamental to that. Like your mother's example of service, your father's example of working hard, and also like the fact that the discipline involved in that, which your mom also reflected in also being your coach. Um, but those things combined, kind of make it impossible to fail because you have the stick to itness to get things done.
I think so. I think failure would have been my choice. And, success and failure is kind of fluid. I mean, at any given moment, we can make a decision where we can make a bad decision that's going to set us off track. But I completely agree with you. That discipline that was instilled in me and the ability to work hard, like work ethic and character. I mean, my parents will joke like we are bequeathing good character and a work ethic to you, and I think that is the most valuable thing that anybody can inherit. It's I didn't have to learn that because I saw it every day of my life. You get the job done.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that because you've been, if my research is correct, you've been in the Coast Guard for close to 7 years now, right?
Almost 7 years, 6.5. Yep.
Neither of your parents were in the military. You said your grandfather was. How did that come together? Was there a teacher or someone that kind of brought up the idea or like
It actually came through sports, the opportunity to go to the Coast Guard Academy. Now, at some point, I don't actually know when I came up with this idea, but you're a teenager, you're in high school, I played football, baseball, and basketball. I really like sports. I couldn't imagine myself not continuing to play sports. I did well in school. I liked school, some subjects. I didn't really like math, but that's okay. And I really, because my parents had instilled this sense of service within me, service to faith, service to country, respect for faith. It became sort of like, okay, I was trying to figure out as a teenager, what do I value? And college, because of the sacrifices that my great grandparents, grandparents, and parents have made, college was going to be an opportunity for me. There's such a high cost of college, and how that would have been paid for had I not gone to a service academy, we'll never know, which I'm very grateful for. But I was like, okay, I want to go to college. I want to play sports and I want to serve my country in some way. And at some point, I developed this notion that I want to be in the military in some service. And, I did various research on the different services and tried to figure out what was best. Recruiting process went on. And as I was getting recruited by different schools, I was always asking about ROTC programs to become an officer in different services. They would match me up if they had a player that was going through that process. And Coach Bill George, football coach at the Coast Guard Academy, came in and talked to him for about an hour and a half. He talked to me and one of our other players and completely sold me on this idea that the Coast Guard Academy was the best opportunity because you could go be an astronaut, a Navy SEAL. You could go to University of Michigan and become an engineer, which I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be an engineer. That wouldn't be good for anybody. Anyway, he was like, you can go to sea, you can go be a pilot, you can do all these different things. And I was like, well, that sounds like a lot of open doors. And once I was accepted, I took advantage of the opportunity and really never looked back. I think, honestly, I tell my brother this all the time. Like, I had the luxury of making one good decision as a 17 or 18-year-old, and things have gone well from there because I went to a service academy, because I was blessed to be able to play football at the Coast Guard Academy. And on one of my visits there, met the defensive coordinator, who also happened to be the baseball coach. So I ended up playing baseball at Coast Guard as well. So that's how Coast Guard came about, and then kind of figuring it out from there as far as where to go. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to spend about 4 years at sea, and I think that provided so many challenges and opportunities for me. That's kind of led me here to law school somehow.
Well, I love the point that you made, which I also try to tell people, well, students about, which is optionality. Like when you make choices, there's some choices that foreclose others. And so, like, if you pick a career choice, especially early on, that leaves open those options, those are typically pretty powerful because you can, we don't always know from birth what we want to do. And so having those options open are great. And I'm glad that, and I can see you've taken advantage of them. And just to fill in a little bit for people that are watching this, I mean, Jack, like he went to the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, got his bachelor's in government, and then after that, Michigan State University, and got a master's in law enforcement intelligence and analysis, and then went to law school. So how did that transition to law school?
So it actually the impetus to go to law school, it actually so I'll start with the master's degree.
Yeah.
So I found myself super interested in the work that I was doing on my ship that I was stationed on, Coast Guard Cutter Escanaba. We were doing the counter narcotics mission. We were going down to the Western Caribbean Sea, Eastern Pacific Ocean, and we were interdicting drug smugglers. I really thought that was a valuable mission. I was really inspired by it. And I thought to myself, talking about optionality, well, maybe I'll be in the Coast Guard for 5 years, which is the minimum service commitment for an academy grad, and maybe I'll be in for 25. I don't really know. So I was like, well, what can I do on the outside if I like this and I think this is something I could potentially do in another role? Well, why don't I look into what options there are in, I don't know, one other three-letter agency, FBI, DEA, something like that, someone who's going to be, doing that mission over and over and over. And I looked at some of the requirements to to get into that world, and one of them was a master's degree in some sort of specific criminal justice field. So I was like, okay, I can do that. Why I didn't pay for my going to a service academy, you don't pay tuition. I can pay for a 2-year master's program. That's fine. And I went and did a little bit of research. I found myself just really interested in reading in the criminal justice field. I'm like, well, why don't I just get a degree for this? And I applied to Michigan State, was accepted, had an amazing experience there. I was doing this online while I was still serving on the ship, but had great professors that were super flexible and understanding with,
Because this was also like 2020 to 2022. So yeah, so COVID
that's
was
right.
going
Yeah.
on.
So in the middle. So I did it without any intention of going to law school. Law school had kind of been in my head since Coach George came and recruited me. He was like, "You could be a lawyer." It's like, "Oh, that sounds cool. Cool, I guess. Neat." It was never like I'm not one of those people who was from birth. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to do this. And the opportunity came up when I was trying to figure out what to do after. So my previous tour, I served overseas in Bahrain, and as we were getting ready for that, I decided, you know what, I'm going to study for the LSAT, and I'm going to take the LSAT and give myself a shot to get accepted to a very competitive Coast Guard program. And I didn't think I had a prayer, to be honest with you. I didn't meet a lot of the metrics that they tend to look for, but someone was looking out for me and ended up. I saw the message came out that I was accepted and was super excited. So I really I threw my name in the hat, and thankfully I was selected. So I wasn't ever relying on law school. I didn't think I would have the opportunity to go to law school. I figured by the time separated from service, whether I was, 29 years old or 49 years old, the window would have passed for me and what would have made sense in my life to go to school. And some of that is because I wasn't fully aware of my education benefits, which ties into military benefits assistant. I used tuition assistance which pays up to $250 a credit hour for my master's degree at Michigan State, and that kind of opened my eyes to these different education opportunities that we have in the service beyond going to a service academy or being part of an ROTC program.
And what drew you to Suffolk? I mean, it to me like is amazing in terms of like its progressive attitude towards technology and like how to use it as a force multiplier to let us do like more as lawyers, to be better lawyers. It doesn't have a defensive attitude towards it early on. Like even before, ChatGPT, like there were programs within, LIT, the Legal Innovation uh, department with David Colarusso and Quinn. Was that part of the draw, or like what was it? The fact that it was in Boston, like what drew you to it?
It's a mix. So I actually knew about Suffolk because my uncle went there. He graduated in 1996. So that's how I first found out about Suffolk Law. And I had known that, and my aunt went there as well. Um, so I'd known about Suffolk possibly before I knew about the Coast Guard Academy, actually. And I applied to a bunch of different schools, and I actually took leave from the Middle East to come back and went out to California, checked out some schools, came up to New England and looked at some schools. And visiting Suffolk, I really just got a good feel for the place, and I felt like, okay, this is a place I could see myself succeeding at. I could see myself doing well here. I felt like I belong here. And I think that's really important, is being somewhere you think that you feel comfortable and can succeed. I'm a big believer in getting uncomfortable and being uncomfortable and putting yourselves in uncomfortable positions. And I think that was the draw to Suffolk, where I could be in a place where I could be comfortable, but also put myself in these situations like leaning into legal technology. I'm not a technologist. People make fun of me for not being able to use my cell phone correctly sometimes. So I think I wanted to jump into that. I wanted to jump into that and figure out, like, okay, what is this world that I know nothing about? I've just served on ships for 4 years. How can I jump into this law school environment and do something different within it? And I think Suffolk Law is the ideal place to do that.
Well, from what I know about you, you've been really taking advantage of that. And I think it's not, like you mentioned that the facility with technology, like coming to it, like you didn't have that. But to me, that's really not that's not the magic. Like the magic is being curious, right? Like if you have that, it doesn't matter what technology it is, you're going to adapt and you're going to succeed because, especially if you have the discipline to continue on and figure it out. Um, and so that's the superpower, really, is curiosity. And so you brought that to Suffolk, and you had mentioned, I think, before we started recording that you had like a legal tech project that you're working on that's part of what you're turning in before the end of this semester. Um, so I'm sure there's a mix of like regular classes too, but like, what are some of the things that you've been working on, like that project, for example?
Sure. So the project I'm working on is actually for Quentin Stanhouse's class, Legal Tech for Small Firms, and I'm using Gavel for that. I know you interview. I listened to your interview with Dorna Moyni, and
Yeah.
she was a guest in Dean Gabe Tenenbaum's class, 21st Century Lawyering, that I'm also taking this semester. And I'm using Gavel to build a tool that is going to help people fill out Form 22 VBA 22 1990, and that form allows military members, veterans, and dependents to apply for the post 9/11 GI Bill, Montgomery GI Bill, and then get accepted, ideally get accepted by the Department of Veterans Affairs, and then pursue an education at a public institution or for a substantial sum of money at a private institution. It's basically the next step to what military benefits assistant currently is. Military benefits assistant right now is really resource access. It's these things are here for you, but it can't do much more than that. And I think that's what excites me most about it is I want to look back in 5 years and be like, wow, that was a really bad tool. That wasn't good. That wasn't that helpful because it has gotten so much more helpful at that point. Yeah, so I'm really excited about what I'm going to be submitting for that class. And I think beyond building the tool, that what I'm excited to submit is kind of the journal of how the process came to be. And, having been able to track the progress and the changes and the updates has been really, really valuable. And I've really enjoyed working with Gavel and using that. I think it's a really, really valuable tool.
Yeah, it really is a great product, and Dorna definitely has her heart in the right place in helping people. Um, let's back up a little bit because I know what you're talking about, but the audience might be like, "What military benefits?" So let's let's step back. Tell us what is the military benefits assistant?
Sure. Military Benefits Assistant is an AI powered tool that enables military members, veterans, and the entire military community, including families, to figure out what benefits they have access to. In the military, there are so many education benefits. There are so many benefits in general, but what I'm focused on right now is education benefits. So when you join the service, if you come across a service member, they probably fall into one of two categories. One category is someone who has already used their GI Bill benefits and they're reaping the rewards for having done that, having gotten an education or a certification with it. And then the other class of people are people who know about the GI Bill. And that was me up until about 2, maybe 3 years ago now. And yeah, GI Bill, school, free, right? And that's essentially all I knew about it. So maybe I'm projecting a bit of my lack of knowledge onto some other folks. But there's a ton of information out there on it. But the process to like go step by step through how to actually apply and who's eligible, when are you eligible, when can you use it, is a little less clear because it's written into U.S. code, the GI Bill. So
Oh,
it's very if you serve for more than 36 months, then you get 100% of the benefit. If you've served greater than 90 days but less than 180, then you only get 50% of the benefit. And trying to figure that out is a little bit challenging. So, military benefits assistant started off as a chatbot because that was what I was like, let's build a chatbot. That seems cool. And what I found was that a chatbot wasn't the right tool for this. And I think that's what's so exciting about artificial intelligence and legal tech is it's not always the new shiny thing that's the right tool for the particular solution that we're trying to solve for. What this needed was rule-based logic, guided interview. Who are you? Are you active duty or no? Are you a dependent? Are you a service member? Are you retired? What's your discharge status? Are you honorable, dishonorable? Because then someone can figure out if you have a dishonorable discharge, you don't get these education benefits. If you have an honorable discharge and you've served greater than 90 days after 9/11, then you do get to take advantage of this post 9/11 GI Bill. And the tool helps you see that. Additionally, if you're active duty, you have the right to tuition assistance, which is $250 per semester credit hour, $166 per quarter credit hour, up to $4,500 every year. And that changes every fiscal year. So it's just a means for people to figure that out, to find out that they can take advantage of that. And my story behind that is twofold. One, I paid for my first semester at Michigan State out of pocket because I didn't know that I could take advantage of this benefit. Second, in my last tour in Bahrain, I was the education services officer as one of my collateral duties, and we had a couple of people come up and like, hey, I'm kind of interested in accessing my education benefits. What do I do? I'm supposed to come to you. That's all it says. And I was like, come to me. Oh, all right. I guess I got to do my research. So I did a lot of research on all these education benefits. I put together a presentation and showed the crew. And we had a 27-person crew. And by the end of our tour, 19 people had either fully started school, had a concrete plan to start school, or had gotten one of their spouses enrolled in a program, which was so valuable. I mean, you're talking about a plumbing certification to pursuing a master's degree. And the feedback I received from them was no one had presented the information all together like that, and they appreciated it. So what I learned from that was, so if people have access to this, they will take advantage of it. Fast forward a couple of years, starting at Suffolk Law, I got accepted to the Legal Innovation and Technology Clinic, and I talked to David and Quentin, and I was like, what can I'm not a tech guy. I want to be not necessarily a software developer, but how do I get engaged with this stuff? So I started a Python class, and then I created a ChatGPT account, started kind of bouncing around different ideas with that. And I realized, well, wait a minute, I can create a custom GPT, and I fed it all the information that I knew about military education benefits. And that was the birth of Military Benefits Assistant.
well, wow. Let's unpack that because
Sorry, I threw a
because
lot.
there's a lot.
I threw a lot in there.
I mean, first off, it's obvious to me, and I think anyone watching this, that you totally know your stuff now about what the rules are and the if-thens, and if you go down this branch versus another branch. And I'll come back to that in a second because I want to look at the benefits to people and the benefits to you, which I think a lot of people don't think about that latter part. But the benefits to people is that the before picture, and I think you remember from class, I like to point out the before picture before the after picture. The before picture is that Yeah, there's tons of web pages. There's tons of information out there about this stuff. It's Thank you so much for watching the latest episode of the LawDroid Manifesto podcast. To keep in the loop about upcoming episodes, please subscribe to LawDroid Manifesto and you'll get notified. Thanks for watching. See you next time.